Hello, welcome back for another video. We're back on Ark Survival Ascended, and we'll also be revisiting Survival Evolved, as I'm going to be ranking all shoulder pets in Ark and why you should tame them. I'll be ranking them from a PvE perspective, but I will also showcase their PvP utility. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Kicking off our list in 19th place is going to be the Compy. To tame a Compy, their preferred food is raw mutton or raw prime meat, and with the addition of wild babies roaming around all over the place, it's very easy to get raw prime meat at the early stages of the game, which is typically where you'll find loads of Compys prowling the beaches. Taming a Compy at the early game can be very useful. I'd like to point out that pretty much every shoulder pet on the list will have 50% weight reduction for anything inside its inventory when perched on your shoulder, allowing you to carry far more items. So I will always take a shoulder pet with me when out exploring. They don't really deal a lot of damage, but they do receive pack buffs, which will go up to +8 in a group of 9 or more Compys. They will receive 30% extra melee damage and 10% damage resistance per extra pack member. I've personally never used the Compys as a pack, but apparently they are pretty good at taking down far larger creatures than themselves. The Ichthyornis is no doubt one of the most annoying creatures to encounter in the wild. However, they do make for pretty useful shoulder pets. It has a dive attack which can pick up small creatures in its beak, which does more damage to fish, so it can be quite useful for fishing. If this attack is used on humans, it will have a chance to disarm the player. It also does have a few passive abilities at its disposal. These options can be accessed via its radial menu. No hunt, where the Ichthyornis will not grab small creatures and will limit itself to attacking them normally. The hunt option, where the Ichthyornis will grab small creatures and eat them after death, and the hunt and retrieve ability, where it will grab small creatures and bring the corpses back to the player. A shiny gold aura will be visible around the carcass, and these kills can be harvested for raw prime fish meat and raw prime meat. This ability, however, in Ark Survival Ascended does seem to be completely broken and doesn't actually work at all. Surprise, surprise. But it does work perfectly in Ark Survival Evolved, which can be very useful in many occasions. Following the Ichthyornis is going to be the Pego, which is the bane of my existence, but it does make for a great shoulder pet, especially in PvP, where it can use its wild ability of stealing items from players. When accessing its radial menu, you can change its pickpocket ability to your liking. No pickpocket will disable it completely, the regular pickpocket, where the Pego will continuously steal items from the player, and finally, fast pickpocket will steal an object and will run back to its owner, and of course they're very easy to tame, especially in the early game. You'll be able to keep gathering berries while they attack you and steal them off you, so it could probably be used for a good bit of trolling. Up next we have the Hesperornis, definitely one of the weaker of the shoulder pets, but it does have some nice utility going its way. When whistled to dive and attack, the Hesperornis can deal massive damage to fish. If using a female, after hunting and killing 5 fish, it will lay an egg. Those eggs can be the normal Hesperornis egg or the rare golden variant. This process can be sped up if you kill the fish yourself and whistle your Hesperornis to attack the dead fish. The normal Hesperornis eggs can be roasted up in a cooking pot to create 12 oil. The golden eggs can be force-fed to small non-rideable tame creatures for a whopping 500% XP buff. Humans and larger creatures can also eat the eggs for a 10% XP buff, which will last for 10 minutes. These are also an ingredient in extraordinary kibble, but let's be honest, it's much easier to use the Uteranus for this purpose. And finally, if you have a male and a bunch of females, you can have yourself a low-budget organic polymer farm by killing the babies once they mature to adult. Up next we have the Archaeopteryx, a shoulder pet that could have so much more potential, but sadly it falls short. When picked up by the player, has the ability to glide as a portable parachute, but in this state you cannot use any weapons and you can't defend yourself from anything until you throw your Arca on the floor, which is less than ideal when out exploring. It does also have a passive ability that when wandering in the redwood biome, it will begin to generate sap passively in its inventory. But honestly, this seemed to work much better in ASE, but this ability is so inefficient, they fly off and end up dying, so it's really not worth the trouble. And here it is, another annoying dino that makes for a great shoulder pet. It is the Microraptor, and just like the Compy, it does receive pack buffs, which will go up to +4 in a group of 5 or more Microraptors, receiving 25% extra melee damage and 10% damage resistance per pack member. And I really like the look of the Microraptor, but I am a PvE player, so the Microraptor doesn't benefit me too much, but it is very useful in PvP due to its ability to stun players off of their mounts, and it can stun players off of a wide variety variety of small to medium creatures. You'll have to throw it off your shoulder to be able to do this. Any player stunned will be stunned for 10 seconds, which will leave them very vulnerable. Clever girl. Up next is going to be the Mesopithecus, a trusty companion to have with you when out exploring, making for a great shoulder pet for PvE and PvP. The Mesopithecus will throw poop at targets when on your shoulder. It doesn't deal a lot of damage, but whenever it hits a target with a piece of poop, it will deal some slight health damage, will massively decrease the movement speed of the target. Whenever this poop hits a player, will also negate any healing effects from consumable items. This effect will last for 10 seconds and can potentially put that player in a bit of a rough spot, giving you and your tribe mates the opportunity to gain the upper hand, and does actually inflict quite a decent amount of torpor to players. I mean, the poop throw is pretty inaccurate, but if it ever hits, it can definitely turn the battle in your favor. They can open wooden thatched tier doors from the inside of someone's base, probably more useful for trolling. I'm pretty sure there's no way you could easily throw a monkey into someone's base, but it's fun nonetheless. Adding to this, they can also wear helmets, giving them extra armor, and can be an absolute nightmare to deal with. They can also be set into turret mode, giving any intruders a nice surprise. I love the monkey, it's definitely one of my favorite shoulder pets from the base game. Up next is going to be the Noglin, which is the first creature on the list that is not available in Ark Survival Ascended. It is only available in Ark Survival Evolved, and will come to Ark Survival Ascended when the Genesis Part 2 map releases. And this is honestly a full-blown PvP tame. They don't interest me one bit as a PvE player, and they are butt ugly. The Noglin has the ability to temporarily mind control non-allied survivors, and also their tame creatures, within range for a limited time. When controlling the survivors, the Noglin can interact with some of the survivors' structures, such as doors or generators. Luckily, they can't just mind control any creature. The target needs to have at least 50% of their health and be a lower level than the Noglin itself. They can also be used on wild creatures, which can even be used on wild gigas, at your own risk, because they basically get one shot if it notices you, and once removed from that wild creature, will instantly kill that creature. Keep in mind that any creatures killed by the Noglin will not drop any tributes, so basically, if you do mind control wild giga, it won't drop the giga heart. And even though I'm not a fan of the Noglin, you can't deny its PvP utility. Up next is going to be the Vulture, which is one of my personal favourites, being one of the highest damage dealers out of all shoulder pets, and will make a great bodyguard when out exploring. They are very easy to tame, being a passive tame, requiring only spoiled meat to be shoved up its bum. For PvP, it will focus attacks on the rider when attacking creatures mounted by a player. It will increase the spoilage timer of any meat inside its inventory by a whopping 15 times. You can only put spoiled meat into its inventory, but if you do have your Vulture harvest the carcass, it will be able to harvest the meat from it, which can be very useful when out taming carnivores and you're in need of mutton or raw prime meat. And if, for example, you tame a bunch of them, a flock of vultures can be devastating to anything that gets in their way. In this case, a deathworm was the unfortunate victim. Vultures are absolute beasts. A personal favourite of mine from the base game is going to be the Dimorphodon, and they really do pack a punch, sharing the same damage output as the Vulture. The Dimorphodon is a very useful ally to have with you when out exploring, and can deal big damage from the safety and comfort of your shoulder, or totally save your butt if for some unfortunate reason you're unable to defend yourself. And just like the Vulture, can be devastating in groups. They absolutely tore through this Alpha Rex's health. They can also be used as a cheap and easy way to destroy wild beehives when taming a giant queen bee, and when attacking creatures mounted by a player, they will have a higher chance of attacking the player from the mount, so could potentially be useful in PvP. There really are many reasons why the Dimorphodon is so good. Up next is going to be the Fjord Hawk, currently only available in Ark Survival Evolved, and will come to Ark Survival Ascended when the Fjordor map releases, which will probably be in 20 years time. The Fjord Hawk has the unique ability of bringing your inventory directly to you upon death. Whenever the Fjord Hawk holder dies, the Fjord Hawk will grab your death cache and will return it back to you upon respawning at one of your beds. There is a 1 hour cooldown for this, which is indicated with this icon on the right of your screen, so if you plan on dying a lot, you might want to keep a few of them handy. Similar to the Direwolf, any player with a Fjord Hawk perched on their shoulder can see the approximate health of targets. It can also detect corpse locations with a white cross. Another passive ability it has is damage immunity. It will always take 0 damage from the attacker on the first attack. This will recharge itself after 60 seconds. It does also have the passive of being able to detect loot bags nearby. The Fjord Hawk can also be thrown by the player, and it will grab a loot bag from the floor and give it back to the player. Next creature on the list is going to be the Ferox, only currently available in Ark Survival Evolved and will be added to Ark Survival Ascended when the Genesis Part 1 map releases. This is a little bit of a controversial shoulder pet, as we're not really rating it on its shoulder pet capabilities, but more so its large form ones. However, it is still technically a shoulder pet. In its small form, it is a shoulder pet that can be perched on your shoulder and looks very cute, aka the wife in a good mood. But once you feed it element, you will unleash the beast and it will transform into a giant Ferox, aka the wife in a bad mood. The more element you feed it, the more it gets addicted to it. As addiction of a Ferox in its shapeshifted giant form progresses, it will gain 200% melee damage, 50% attack speed, and 25% damage resistance. The more it becomes addicted to it, the more element you need to feed it. To feed it element, place the element in any of your hotbar slots. If you are wanting to breed these beasts, you need to have your female above 95% addiction to be able to mate it with a male. The male does not need to be addicted, and they need to be in their small form to be able to breed. Helmets can also be equipped to boost their armor rating. The Ferox is a very expensive creature to own. You'll probably be needing to keep element handy on you at all times if you are using them as a battle mount. And as a battle mount, they are a formidable fighting force. The Ferox can be an all-terrain mount. They can scale walls and cling to surfaces, where you'll be able to wield your weapons while mounted, jump great distances, and is equipped with a devastating rock throw attack. The Ferox will also give you a massive insulation buff, granting the survivor 225 hypo and hypothermic insulation, making them an ideal mount to take around with you in cold temperatures. Due to its high attack speed, high damage, resistance to damage in full addiction, and with the ability to wear a helmet, makes them a great asset when fighting bosses or hunting down the brutes of the Genesis map. The Jerboa has been one of my favourite creatures to use when playing the Scorched Earth map. Their utility has been massively improved after being recently added to Ark Survival Ascended, especially now that they can actually spawn up to level 150 in the wild. And I never thought I'd see the day when I relied on the Jerboa to carry all my metal for me at the early game, as their weight capacity is exceptional. Their main ability is warning us of incoming weather storms, which is the main reason why they are tamed and why they are so important when playing Scorched Earth, and I do hope in future that they will also work on other maps that include storms. The Jerboa can also be equipped with helmets, giving them that much needed extra layer of protection. In at number 6, 5, 4, and 3 is going to be the 4 Aberration Light pets. This includes the Bulbdog, the Glowtail, the Shinehorn, and the Featherlight, currently only available in Ark Survival Evolved. And of course, these will be added to Ark Survival Ascended along with the Aberration map. I felt like these needed to be high up on the list, albeit not as useful on other maps, but the Aberration map would almost be impossible without these light pets. They are an extremely valuable companion to have with you 24/7. when out exploring. When perched on your shoulder, you can quickly turn their light on or off by using the clap emote. Charge light from any source, including shoulder pets, will reduce hordes of nameless and reapers, and will also remove their natural armor protection, allowing them to be killed much easier. The only downside of the light is that it will attract seekers, but they're not really much of a problem unless you're on foot. Light pet stats have been altered, catering to boost the efficiency of their charge light. The stats are pretty self-explanatory and can be leveled to boost range, charge capacity, and charge regeneration. And finally, all 4 light pets have a passive ability which, if enabled via the radial menu, can detect enemy players within 40 meters and max level wild creatures within 100 meters. Their charge light will have to be turned on for this to function. This will be indicated at the bottom right of your screen, and your light pet will make a cute little noise like this. Taking the number 2 spot is the much loved Sonoma Crops, currently only available in Ark Survival Evolved, which will be added to Ark Survival Ascended when the Lost Island map releases. And it pains for me to say it, but that will be in a very long time. And honestly, I was pretty torn whether to put it at number 1 or number 2. They are such a good shoulder pet, and probably the most fun you'll ever have using any creature in the entire game. The Sonoma Crops is equipped with a unique ability to make you fly when perched on your shoulder. Holding the jump key will make the Sonomacrops fly up. Double tapping the jump key will perform a double jump, kinda like the tech chess piece. Using the crouch key will go into glide mode. Holding the sprint key will control the altitude. Using the X key will go into parachute mode. In this mode, the Sonomacrops will be able to regain its stamina. The Sonomacrops is equipped with a scream ability, which is configurable via its radial menu, or by using the clap emote. It can scare small creatures with this scream, which will affect any creatures below a drag weight of 80. The Sinnoh will deal 10 times extra damage to any insects. It is the ideal companion when exploring caves. Once again, can also be equipped with a helmet for extra armor protection. And finally, the Sonomacrops has the best weight reduction for any shoulder pet in the game, giving any items in its inventory 50% weight reduction, and once on your shoulder, an extra 25% weight reduction for those items in its inventory, making items weigh 75% less when perched on your shoulder. Taking the number one spot is none other than the otter. The utility the otter offers is unrivaled by any other shoulder pet, and it does have an array of abilities. Whenever it kills small fish, it can collect silica pearls or the very rare black pearls. It will walk on up to you and reward you with its gift of pearls. Oh, look at that cute little face. It's a cool ability, but it isn't the best method of gathering pearls, I must admit. But if you do live near a body of water that happens to be a good fishing spot, it may well be a viable way to get yourself the odd few silica pearls and black pearls. I'm a little too scared of my otters dying, so I don't really use this strategy too often. The otter is the only shoulder pet in the entire game that can carry artifacts in its inventory, and not only that, it can carry more than one of the same artifact, and we all know that is something that your character cannot do. However, the otter can, and it will save you multiple trips in retrieving artifacts. The otter will also provide an insulation buff, providing 75 hypothermic and 34 hyperthermic insulation. This can be improved by leveling the otter's melee damage, which is great because you can wear them like a scarf. They will keep you nice and snug in those super cold places, and if you have a load of otters, they can also incubate fertilized eggs. Be sure to tame higher levels for better melee damage stats. It will help a lot when using them for this purpose. Once again, helmets can be equipped to give them that extra layer of protection. All of these reasons are what makes the otter one of the best shoulder pets in the entire game, and that is also going to be the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did enjoy it, please consider liking, commenting, sharing and subscribing for more ARK content. There's plenty more, and there's plenty more to come, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care, goodbye.